My daughter-in-law tried to poison me slowly. She didn't know I had my own plans. The tea burned my tongue before it reached my throat. It was not hot, just wrong. Bitter, sharp, like metal soaked in leaves. I saw my daughter-in-law watching me over the rim of her own cup, smiling the way people do when they wait for something to happen. "Too strong?" she asked. Her voice was light, caring. My tongue tingled. Then it went numb. I swallowed anyway. I had raised a son. I had survived a husband's long illness. I had learned not to make scenes. "I like it strong," I said. She relaxed. That was when I knew something mattered about that sip. My name is Gertrude. I was 71 years old then, living alone in the house I paid off 40 years earlier. My son insisted his wife check on me daily. Everyone said I was lucky. As the room tilted slightly, I watched her reach for her purse. She did not drink her tea. If this story makes your chest tighten already, hit subscribe for more true revenge stories, because this was only the beginning. The dizziness came later, after she left. It always did. At first, I blamed my age. 71 sounded fragile, even if I did not feel it. I sat at my kitchen table and pressed my palms flat until the spinning slowed. That night, I woke with a dry mouth and a pounding head. By morning, my hands shook so badly, I spilled oatmeal on the floor. My doctor frowned during my visit. "Stress," he said gently. "Maybe dehydration." I nodded. I did not tell him about the tea. It sounded foolish when said aloud. But the pattern began to bother me. I felt fine on days she did not come. Strong enough to garden, to walk to the mailbox, to laugh with neighbors. Then she would arrive with her careful smile and her thermos. "Let me make you something warm," she always said. And every time, within an hour, the room would soften at the edges. I began to feel afraid of my own kitchen. Afraid of kindness. Afraid of cups. I bought a calendar with big squares and thick paper. I hung it by the fridge where I could not miss it. Each time the dizziness came, I marked the date with a red pen. The marks lined up neatly. Too neatly. Every red square followed a visit from my daughter-in-law. Every visit included tea she brewed herself. She said my kettle was old. She said my hands shook. I let her. I tested myself on purpose once. She did not come for 3 days. I felt steady. Clear. I baked bread. I slept through the night. On the 4th day, she arrived early. Too early. I was worried, she said. "You didn't answer your phone." I had not heard it ring. She made tea anyway. By afternoon, my legs felt weak again. I sat alone with the calendar and counted the red marks. 11 in a row. That night, I did not sleep. I stared at the ceiling and wondered how a woman marries into a family and decides the mother-in-law is in the way. I wondered how long I had been drinking poison without knowing its name. After that, she began coming every day. She brought groceries I did not ask for and folded laundry that did not need folding. She spoke slowly to me, like I was already fading. "You shouldn't be alone so much," she said. "Let me help." My son agreed. He called her an angel. I watched her move through my house as if she owned it. She rearranged cabinets. She threw away my old mugs and replaced them with matching ones. "You'll trip," she said when I protested. I started to pretend I was weaker than I felt. I leaned on counters. I let my voice shake. Her eyes followed me constantly. Not with worry, with counting. "How are you feeling today?" she asked, always before handing me a cup. "Fine," I lied. She smiled wider when I drank. At night, I locked my bedroom door. I slept in short pieces. I thought of my late husband and how he used to say, "If someone rushes to care for you, ask what they gain." I had laughed then. I did not laugh anymore. One evening, she left in a hurry. Her phone rang and she answered it outside, forgetting her purse on the chair. I stared at it for a long time before touching it. I had been raised to respect privacy. But fear is louder than manners. Inside, everything was neat. Lipstick. Keys. A folded receipt. Then I saw the vial. It was small, brown glass, tucked into a side pocket. The label was not in English. The letters were thin and sharp. My hands shook as I took it out. I did not open it. I did not smell it. I just held it and felt cold spread through my chest. When I put it back, I placed the purse exactly as it had been. That night, I dreamed of cups tipping over by themselves. In the morning, I made my own tea and did not drink it. I poured it down the sink and watched the steam rise. I knew then that guessing was over. I needed truth. And truth, I had learned, does not come to those who look away. I waited until she left again. Then I wrote the letters from the vial label on a piece of paper and searched them on my old laptop. The words loaded slowly. My heart beat faster with each second. The result made my hands go numb. It was a toxic herb. Rare. Legal to buy. Deadly in small doses over time. The article said symptoms included dizziness, weakness, and confusion. Exactly me. I closed the laptop and sat very still. I thought about how quiet my death would have been. Old woman fades. Everyone nods sadly. I thought about my son standing at my grave beside the woman who killed me, holding her hand. I did not cry. Instead, I cleaned my kitchen. I washed every cup. I dried them carefully. I told myself this. I was not dying yet. And if someone wanted me gone, they would have to work much harder. That night, when she called to check on me, I said, "I feel weaker." She sounded pleased. I tried to call my son the next morning. It rang and rang. Then she answered. "He's busy," she said quickly. "Big meeting." I just wanted to hear his voice, I said. "You should rest," she replied. "I'll be there soon." The line went dead. I sat on my bed and stared at the wall. I realized then how alone I truly was. How easy it is to isolate an old woman without locking a door. When she arrived, she brought tea already made. She did not let me watch. "Doctor says hydration is important," she said. I nodded and lifted the cup. My hands trembled on purpose. She watched closely. After she left, I locked the door and slid down against it. My heart raced, but my mind was clear. I was done being afraid. Fear had almost killed me. I decided then that I would not confront her. Not yet. I needed proof. Real proof. The kind that does not disappear when someone smiles sweetly and says, she was confused. That night, I remembered something she had said months earlier, when this all began. "You have a strong constitution," she had told me, stirring my cup. At the time, I had thanked her. Now the words sounded different, like a test. I replayed every visit in my mind, every time she refused to drink with me, every excuse, every smile that came too fast. The next day, I went back to the doctor. He listened more carefully this time. "Could someone be tampering with your drinks?" he asked softly. I said no. Too fast. I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. I left with a note for blood work and a plan forming in my chest. At the hardware store, I bought something small, easy to hide. At home, I stood on a chair and placed it where it could see my counter clearly. The red light blinked once. I covered it with a towel edge and stepped back. My kitchen looked the same, but now it could tell the truth. The next morning, she arrived humming. She kissed my cheek and rolled up her sleeves like a nurse. "I'll make your tea," she said. I sat at the table and folded my hands. She opened her purse. My heart pounded as she turned her back to me. I watched her reach for the vial, watched the powder fall into my mug. I did not breathe. She stirred slowly, carefully. Then she placed the cup in front of me. "There," she said. "Drink while it's warm." I lifted it and smiled back. "Thank you," I said. She sat across from me, eyes bright, waiting. I took one small sip and let it touch my lips. Then I coughed and set the cup down. "Oh dear," she said, standing quickly. "I'm dizzy," I whispered. She smiled wider than ever. That night, after she left, I watched the footage. I watched her poison me, over and over. And I knew the waiting was over. I called the police the next morning. My voice was calm. They listened, but their questions were careful. "Do you have evidence?" one asked. I said yes. They said I would need a sample, something testable. When I hung up, my hands shook, not with fear, but with purpose. She came that afternoon, cheerful as ever. She brewed tea again. I watched the powder fall. This time, when she stepped away, I poured the tea into a clean bottle and hid it. I refilled my cup from another pot. She watched me drink. She smiled. I smiled back. If you feel your heart racing right now, don't look away. Hit subscribe for more true revenge stories, because what came next changed everything. That night, I took the bottle to the doctor. The lab confirmed it. Poison. The detective called me personally. Keep acting normal, he said. We'll handle this quietly. I hung up and sat alone in my kitchen. For the first time in months, I felt strong. The detective told me to live normally, so I did. I cooked. I watered my plants. I answered my phone with a steady voice. Inside, I counted every breath. She came the next morning like always. She brought pastries and news from town. She acted gentle, almost proud. I pretended to be weaker. I moved slower. I let my hands shake when I lifted the cup. She watched closely, her eyes never leaving my face. You're fading, she said softly, not sounding sad at all. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled. That night, I watched the footage again. I saved copies. I labeled dates and times like the detective asked. I slept with the lights on. The plan was simple, they said. Let her grow comfortable. Let her believe she was winning. Comfort makes people careless. By the third day, she hummed while she cooked. She cleaned my counters and opened my windows. You'll be at peace soon, she said once, like a blessing. I nodded and thought, so will you? I practiced weakness like a skill. I slurred words. I forgot names on purpose. I let dishes slip from my hands. She began staying longer. You shouldn't be alone, she told my son over speakerphone. She's declining fast. He believed her. I saw her begin to relax. She left her purse open again. She no longer hid the vial. She thought time was on her side. One afternoon she asked, "Have you thought about your will?" I looked down and said, "Family." She smiled thinly. That night, the detective called. The lab confirmed repeated poisoning, he said. We're ready. Ready did not mean fast. It meant careful. I agreed to one more step. The most dangerous one. The switch. My heart beat hard when I hung up. I was old, yes, but I was not weak. If she wanted me gone, she would have to face what she had done. And she would do it with her own hands. The next day, she brewed tea again. Same routine. Same powder. Same careful stir. I waited until she turned to answer a message. My hands moved without shaking. I switched the cups. The sound of porcelain touching porcelain was loud in my ears. She sat back down and lifted her cup without looking. I lifted mine too. She smiled at me. I drank nothing. She took 3 swallows. We sat in silence. Then her face changed. The color drained fast, like water from a sink. Her hand shook. Gertrude, she whispered. I stood slowly. Strong. Clear. Are you dizzy? I asked. She tried to stand and nearly fell. She gasped like the air had turned thick. I dialed the phone calmly. Ambulance, I said. Poisoning. When they arrived, I said evenly. We both had the same tea. Her eyes burned into me. I felt nothing. At the hospital, they rushed her past me on a stretcher. She reached out, but I stepped back. A nurse asked me questions. I answered truthfully. The detective arrived quietly. He spoke to doctors. He collected the cups I brought in a sealed bag. She did this. She hissed when no one was listening. No, I said. You did. The tests confirmed everything. The poison, the timing, the pattern. That night, police came to my house. They took the vial, the camera, the footage. My son arrived later, pale and shaking. She wouldn't, he said. I showed him the video. He watched without blinking. When it ended, he sat down hard and covered his face. I didn't see it, he whispered. I know, I said. The house felt quiet again. Honest. The detective told me she would be questioned in the morning. I slept deeply for the first time in months. Justice had not arrived yet, but it was walking toward us. She was arrested 2 days later. The charge sounded heavy when the officer said it. Attempted homicide. My son refused to believe it until the prosecutor showed him everything. He did not speak to her again. The trial moved quickly. Evidence does that. In court, she cried. She spoke about misunderstandings and stress. Then they played the video, frame by frame. The courtroom was silent except for her own actions replayed back to her. The judge did not look impressed. When the verdict came, guilty, my chest felt tight. Not from joy, from release. The sound of the gavel echoed inside me for a long time. My son filed for divorce that afternoon. His hands shook as he signed. He moved back home for a while. Quiet. Ashamed. I told him, blind love is still love. You'll learn. He cried then. So did I. But the worst was finally over. News traveled fast in a small town. People stopped saying her name. They crossed the street. Some brought flowers to my gate. The detective visited once more. You stayed calm, he said. That saved you. I thanked him. When I cleaned my kitchen, I found her old notebook tucked behind cookbooks. Recipes. Notes. The last page listed dosages. Symptoms. Timing. I handed it over without comment. Sentencing came quietly. 5 years. She looked back once as they led her away. I felt nothing. My son started therapy. He wrote me letters filled with regret and gratitude. I can't believe I didn't see it, he wrote. I planted lavender where her car used to park. The smell softened the air. By winter, my house felt lighter. No more fear in cups. No more watching smiles. I poured every drink myself. I was alive. That was enough. Spring came again. I hosted family dinner. Every teacup gleamed under bright light. I poured each one slowly. A reporter came later. She asked if I believed in forgiveness. Yes, I said. After justice. Years passed. A letter arrived once with her release date. I did not reply. Then one evening, she stood at my door. Thinner. Shaking. I just wanted to say sorry, she whispered. I invited her in. I made tea. She flinched when I handed her the cup. I smiled softly. I only serve peace now, I said. She left without drinking. I washed the cup and placed it back with the others. That night, I sat in my garden. Lavender moved in the wind. She thought she'd poison me slowly. She didn't know I had learned how to survive quickly. When I switched the cups, I wasn't taking revenge. I was returning the truth to its rightful owner. After the trial, silence settled into my house in a new way. It was not the fearful quiet from before, but a steady one. The kind that lets you breathe. My son stayed in the guest room, moving softly, like he was afraid to disturb the walls themselves. Some nights he talked. Some nights he didn't. I let him choose. He asked once how I knew to wait, how I stayed calm when everything was breaking. I told him the truth. When someone wants you gone, panic helps them, I said. Patience saves you. He nodded like a child learning a hard rule. I returned to small routines. Morning walks. Crossword puzzles. Tea, always tea. I bought new cups. Plain ones. No memories attached. The calendar still hung by the fridge. I tore off the old months and started fresh. No red marks this time. Only dates. Only days I survived. That mattered more than anything she ever planned to take from me. The town treated me differently after that. Not with pity, but with care. Neighbors waved longer. Clerks asked how I was really doing. I learned how fragile reputations are and how strong truth can be when it stands long enough. My son found work nearby so he could stay close. He cooked dinners that tasted like effort and guilt. I ate every bite. We spoke of his future carefully. I don't know how I missed it, he said one night. You trusted? I replied. That is not a crime. He looked at me then like he finally saw his mother as more than someone who needed help. I felt taller somehow. In the evenings, I sat in my garden and watched the lavender grow. It spread fast, stubborn and bright. I liked that. Some wounds do not close quietly. They heal by taking up space. I let mine do exactly that. The notebook came up again months later when the prosecutor called. They needed clarification. I brought it in myself. Holding it felt strange. So much harm written in neat handwriting. Measurements. Timing. Care. The care hurt the most. When I left the building, I felt lighter without it. Justice is not loud when it finishes. It simply stops asking more from you. At home, I cleaned out drawers. I threw away old towels, old fear, old silence. I kept the camera, not because I needed it, but because it reminded me of what awareness looks like. My doctor cleared me fully. You're strong, he said, smiling. I almost laughed. Strength, I had learned, is not muscle or noise. It is noticing patterns. It is waiting. It is knowing when to switch the cup. My son moved out after 6 months. He hugged me longer than usual before leaving. I'll visit, he promised. I know, I said. I watched his car disappear and felt proud. Sad, yes, but proud. Life settled into something gentle. I joined a book club. I baked for neighbors. I laughed without checking faces first. Sometimes I thought about her. Mostly I didn't. That surprised me. Hatred takes energy. Peace does not. One afternoon, a letter arrived with official stamps. Final notice. Case closed. I placed it in a folder and put it away. That night, I brewed tea and sat by the window. Steam rose softly. No bitterness. No burn. Just warmth. I raised the cup to myself. To Gertrude. To staying alive long enough to see the truth surface. A year passed. Then, two. The world did not end because someone tried to push me out of it. It simply kept going, and I went with it. I learned that revenge is not always loud or cruel. Sometimes it is quiet survival that refuses to disappear. A local school invited me to speak about resilience. I declined. This was not a lesson I wanted to teach publicly. Some things belong only to those who lived them. I spent mornings in my garden, afternoons reading, evenings calling my son. He sounded better, lighter. I'm learning how to see people clearly, he said once. So am I replied. We laughed together then. That felt like victory. Not the fall of someone else, but the rise of what almost broke. When the release notice finally came, I stared at it longer than I expected. Not with fear, with distance. I placed it unopened in a drawer. Later, I burned it with old bills and watched the paper curl. I slept well that night. Weeks later, she appeared at my door. Smaller. Unsteady. I recognized her instantly. She asked for forgiveness. I offered tea. Her hand shook so badly she couldn't lift the cup. I did not force her. I only serve peace now, I said. She left without another word. I closed the door and leaned against it, breathing slowly. I did not feel powerful. I felt finished. Finished with fear. Finished with waiting. Finished with her. That evening, I washed the unused cup and placed it back on the shelf. No poison. No secrets. Just porcelain. I realized then that survival had changed me, but not hardened me. It sharpened me. I saw patterns sooner. I trusted my body. I listened when something tasted wrong. Age had not made me weaker. It had given me time to learn. The house felt like mine again. I sat in my chair and closed my eyes. I had been hunted quietly. I had fought back quietly. And I had won quietly. That was enough. People think revenge looks like rage. For me, it looked like calm. It looked like patience. It looked like switching the cup and letting the truth speak for itself. She thought she'd poison me slowly. She didn't know I had already learned how to survive quickly. And when the moment came, I didn't take revenge. I returned it. The arrest did not feel dramatic. It felt quiet and exact, like a door closing where it should. The officer spoke clearly, without anger. The charge sounded heavy when he said it, and I watched my daughter-in-law shrink under its weight. She looked at my son, not at me. He shook his head slowly. as if his world was cracking in careful pieces. "I didn't know," he said again and again. I did not answer. Knowing comes late sometimes. When they took her away, neighbors watched from behind curtains. I stood straight. My legs did not tremble. That night, my son sat at my kitchen table and cried into his hands. I placed a cup of water near him.
"No tea."
"I trusted her," he whispered. "I trusted you to learn," I said. Outside, the street light flickered. Inside, the truth finally stayed put. Justice had begun moving, and it did not need my help anymore. The trial arrived faster than I expected. Evidence does that. The courtroom smelled like paper and polish. I sat behind my lawyer, hands folded, breathing slow. She cried when she spoke. She talked about stress, about mistakes, about love gone wrong. Then the video played. No tears then. Just silence as the footage showed her pouring, stirring, watching. The room held its breath. The prosecutor spoke plainly. No drama. No shouting. Truth does not need volume. When the jury returned, I watched my son instead of the judge. His eyes were red, but steady.
"Guilty."
The word landed heavy and clean. I closed my eyes for 1 second. Not in relief, just to mark the moment. Afterward, my son signed divorce papers in the hallway. His hand shook, but he did not stop. The story she told ended there. Mine kept going. Sentencing came weeks later. 5 years. The number meant little to me. Time had already taken what mattered. She looked back once as they led her away. I did not look back. Outside, the air felt sharp and new. My son walked beside me, without speaking. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "I know," I replied. He moved into the guest room that night. Quiet. Careful. Like someone relearning the shape of home. We ate dinners without forcing conversation. Healing does not like pressure. Words spread through town the way it always does, softly, quickly, and without mercy. Invitations stopped. Names were avoided. Some neighbors left flowers at my gate. Others simply nodded with respect. I accepted both. Revenge was not shouting. It was watching consequences arrive exactly where they belonged. I slept deeply that night, unafraid of cups, unafraid of kindness. The house adjusted to its new rhythm. My son cooked dinners that tasted like effort. I praised them honestly. He started therapy. He left pamphlets on the table like small flags of hope. One evening, he asked, "How did you know to wait?" I thought carefully. I listened when my body said something was wrong. I told him. And I didn't rush to be believed. He nodded, writing that down as if it were a rule. We cleaned together on Sundays. We talked about small things. Weather. Work. The garden. The bigger things waited until they were ready. I planted lavender where her car used to park. The soil was stubborn, but the plant took hold. Watching it grow felt like proof that space can be reclaimed. Justice had removed the poison. Life was teaching us how to breathe again. By spring, the town had chosen its side without asking me to explain. Silence followed her name.
Respect followed mine.
I did not celebrate. I observed. Neighbors waved longer. Clerks asked how I was really doing. I learned how reputation repairs itself when truth stands still long enough. My son found work nearby. He smiled more. "You saved us," he said once. "No," I replied. I survived. That mattered more. The detective visited to close the case. He shook my hand gently. "You kept calm," he said. That changed everything. After he left, I cleaned my kitchen top to bottom. I threw away old mugs. I kept only what felt honest. That night, I brewed tea and drank it slowly by the window. No bitterness. No fear. Just warmth, earned. A reporter called that summer. She wanted my story. I declined at first, then agreed to a short interview. She asked if I believed in forgiveness. Yes, I said. After justice. That sentence traveled farther than I expected. People wrote letters. Some thanked me. Some shared their own quiet fears. I read them carefully and replied to a few. Survival, I learned, gives permission to others. My son moved into his own place that fall. He hugged me long and steady. "I'll visit," he promised. "I know," I said. When his car disappeared, the house felt large but not empty. I filled it with music, with plants, with light. Revenge had finished its work. What remained was living well, without apology. Months later, the prosecutor called again. They needed the notebook I had found. I brought it myself. Holding it felt heavy, like carrying someone else's thoughts. Measurements. Timing. Notes. So much care put into harm. I handed it over without comment. Walking out, I felt lighter than I had in years. At home, I kept the small camera in a drawer. Not for fear, just as a reminder. Awareness is a kind of safety. My doctor cleared me completely. "You're strong," he said, smiling. I almost laughed. Strength, I had learned, is noticing patterns and trusting yourself when others doubt you. That evening, I watched the lavender sway in the wind. It had spread farther than planned. I let it. Some things grow best when you stop trying to control them. Years passed quietly. Life settled into gentle habits. Then a letter arrived with official stamps. Her release date. I stared at it for a long moment, feeling nothing sharp at all. I placed it in a drawer and forgot it. Weeks later, she came to my door.
Smaller. Thinner.
Her hands shook. "I just wanted to say sorry," she whispered. I invited her in. I made tea. She flinched when I handed her the cup. I smiled softly. "I only serve peace now," I said. She did not drink. She left quickly, like someone who had seen a ghost. I closed the door and leaned against it, breathing slow. I did not feel powerful. I felt finished. Finished with fear. Finished with waiting. Finished with her. That night, I washed the unused cup and placed it back with the others. No poison. No secrets. Just porcelain. I realized then that survival had not hardened me.
It had sharpened me.
I trusted my senses. I listened when something tasted wrong. Age had not weakened me. It had given me time to learn. The house felt fully mine again. I slept with the windows open. In the morning, I watered the garden and watched bees gather. Life continued, unbothered by the drama it survived. I liked that. Quiet victories last longer. I raised a cup of tea to the morning light, to Gertrude, to staying alive long enough to see the truth return home. My son wrote me a letter from therapy one winter afternoon. "I didn't see it," he wrote. "Thank you for surviving. Thank you for waiting." I cried then. For both of us. Healing is not fast. It is honest. We talked often after that.
About trust.
About choosing better. He sounded lighter with each call. I felt proud without needing to say it. The town moved on. New gossip replaced old. I stayed. That was my victory. Revenge had never been about hurting her. It was about stopping the harm and letting consequences stand. I did not chase her downfall. I stepped aside and let it happen. That is a power no one can take. The new year came quietly. No fireworks. No speeches. Just clean air and a calm house. I hosted a family dinner for the first time since everything ended. My son arrived early and helped me set the table. I noticed how carefully he handled the cups, like he remembered too. I poured every drink myself. Slowly. On purpose. No one joked about tea. No one needed to. The light above the table was bright, honest. I liked that. When the food was finished, my son hugged me longer than usual. "You look strong, Mom," he said. "I am," I replied. After they left, I sat alone with the dishes and let the silence settle. It did not feel empty. It felt earned. For the first time in years, my home did not hold secrets. That night, I slept without locking my bedroom door. A local reporter asked to speak with me a few weeks later. She said people found my story inspiring. I almost laughed at that word. There was nothing pretty about almost dying. Still, I agreed to a short interview. She asked if I believed in forgiveness. I thought carefully before answering. "Yes," I said, "but only after justice." She wrote that down slowly, like it mattered. After the article ran, letters arrived. Women, men, mostly older. They thanked me for trusting myself, for not staying quiet. I read every one. I answered a few. Surviving had given me a voice I did not ask for, but I chose to use it gently. That night, I made tea and sat by the window. The cup felt warm, safe. I realized something then. Justice did not give me peace. Telling the truth did. Years passed faster than I expected. Life filled itself again. Garden work, doctor visits, Sunday calls with my son. One afternoon, a letter arrived with her name on it. Official. Cold. It listed her release date. I did not open it right away. I placed it on the table and stared at it for a long time. My heart did not race. My hands did not shake. That surprised me. Later, I burned it with old papers and watched the smoke fade. I did not owe her a reply. I owed myself peace. That evening, I watered the lavender where her car once parked. It had grown thick and wild, purple everywhere. I smiled. Some things survive attempts to destroy them. They grow stronger roots. She came to my door one afternoon without calling first. I recognized her instantly, though she looked smaller, older, afraid. I just wanted to say sorry, she whispered. I did not raise my voice. I did not step back. I invited her inside. I made tea. When I placed the cup in front of her, her hands trembled. She did not touch it. I sat across from her calmly. I don't poison people, I said softly. I only serve peace now. She stood quickly, tears in her eyes, and left without another word. I closed the door and leaned against it, breathing slowly. I felt no joy, no anger, only finality. Some endings do not need shouting. They just need truth standing still. I still drink tea every afternoon. I choose the cup. I choose the moment. That is my victory. She thought she could poison me slowly. She didn't know I had learned how to survive quickly. When I switched the cups, I was not chasing revenge. I was returning truth to where it belonged, back to the person who tried to hide it. I sit in my garden now, lavender moving in the wind, and I breathe easily. I am Gertrude. I am alive. And nothing tastes bitter anymore. If this story stayed with you, like the video, subscribe for more powerful revenge stories, and tell me in the comments what part hit you the hardest.